I know you guys love that. Give them some more love, please. Chat them up online, all over the globe. Live on, live on, live on, live on, which is our inner mantra. As I was saying earlier, when Arne and I talked earlier, she told me to come out on the stage and start dancing. That wasn't just me doing that, because we were dancing for Laura Riley Dowling, who made her transition, just turning that grief energy into a dance of life. Live on, live on, live on, live on, Riley. You see, and any other sense of sadness that might be passing through, we're just dancing it out and allowing the transmutation of energy to go to a higher frequency, that we may be free in our hearts, our minds, and our souls. So we welcome you in the spirit of the Christ consciousness, which is the theme of the month, the mass celebration of the Christ. And you've heard the reading that, of course, was speaking about an expanded awareness. And whenever we hear the word Christ, we're hearing the frequency of our highest potential, that the highest potential within us on the earth plane is the Christ consciousness, where the presence and the power and the love of God has become activated within us, and this sense of separation between us and the presence has dissolved, and we can say ultimately, like Jesus, who was the great way shower, the great exemplar, the individual who put forth an example of the highest possibility in human consciousness. Ultimately, we can say, we are becoming the Christ. We are little Christus. Or opening ourselves up to that consciousness and not seeking to ride into heaven, so to speak, on the coattails of Jesus, but to expand our awareness using the practices and the teachings that he left us, to go in to our inner chamber and pray in secret and in silence and in solitude, that the divine law may reveal itself openly in our life, that we may forgive 70 times 7, and that we may come into the consciousness of what it means it is done unto us as we believe, that the ground upon which we're standing is holy, the kingdom of God is within, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. He left so many nuggets for us to practice, and so this extension of his teaching is through us every single day of our life. So during this particular season, as I mentioned it last week, we are opening ourselves up to this possibility within us, and we are aware that there is the celebration of light that is happening on the planet, the Festival of Lights, whether it is Kwanzaa, whether it is Hanukkah, whether it is Christmas, and that there's a high celebratory field that is taking place in many homes around the world, and that we are to ride this high tide into extending our practice, and so that we can say to ourselves, what is it that we want to take with us into the next year? What is it that we don't want to take with us into the next year? That's about ourselves, not about other people, about ourselves, so that we can keep on growing and glowing for the power and the presence and the love of God. And then we're keenly aware that during this particular time of the year, there's a dynamic of activation of family dynamics and wounds and inner traumas that may have taken place, and people that may have made the transition that we may be missing, that during this particular time of the high holy season activates some of that dynamic within us, and individuals may be having difficulty during this particular time of the year, so that we want to activate our compassion muscles with ourselves, giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, embracing ourselves, being more patient with ourselves, but also being more patient with individuals on the planet that may be growing through something at this particular time of the season. But it brings forth a desire to go deeper in our practice, not just be believers, but actually stop on a regular basis and have a greater depth of connection and understanding with the presence that is never an absence, that takes us through the vicissitudes of the human experience, the up and down nature of the human consciousness, that we may open up and be a greater version of ourself, moment by moment by moment by moment, so that what takes over is not what we want in the world, but what takes over is what we want to become in the world. That begins to be a larger dynamic that we live in, rather than what we're trying to acquire. What are we trying to become? What next great version of ourselves that we want to become, you see. That becomes a dynamic and a flow of the progressive universe, you see. And so what does that mean? Today, the topic is from vigilance to vision. That we are stepping up with a level of, we're being vigilant. In Peter it says, be vigilant and sober, because the devil is roaming around like a wild lion. And of course, devil is lived backwards. And so that which is roaming around is the race consciousness. That which is roaming around is thoughts and perceptions and beliefs of separation that have condensed themselves into the world of appearances that we're living in. And those particular thought forms replicate themselves into a dynamic of a world scene that we see broadcast on a regular basis through the news reel, through conversations, through gossip, through things of that particular nature. And so we want to be vigilant. We want to protect our consciousness so that the world as it appears to be does not become the activity of our awareness, so that we begin to be aware that that which oftentimes we're growing through is not really our fault. I mean, think about it. When you were growing up in school, did they teach you conscious awareness technology? Did you learn in class how to heal the emotional tenderness within you? Did you learn going through school that you have a great connection with the presence and the power and the love of God that trumps anything in your life? No, so it's not really your fault. That has not been a part of our training unless you came from enlightened parentage that taught you about meditation, taught you about expanding consciousness, taught you about healing your emotional wounds, taught you about self-forgiveness, taught you about self-love and appreciation so that you had a strong anchor, a vibrational anchor to walk through the world. But for most people, consciousness raising technology was not taught in school or in the families. And so that meant that individuals were like a turned on tape recorder without any discrimination, moving through the world, just picking up anything that was out there to be picked up, whether it was family environment, whether it was in the school, whether it was in society, whether it's in social media, whatever was going on the scene. Most people were just like an open tape recorder, picking that up, and without any sense of discrimination whatsoever. And that began to be the perception by which they were living their life. No fault. The only fault is ignorance, you see? And so you add that to the fact that the world, which is carrying the dynamic of fear, doubt, and worry, and particular nature, activates the survival instinct. You look upon the world right now, you see individuals afraid of COVID. They're afraid of getting sick. They have wars and rumors of wars. There's the economics going up and down. And there is no global vision of leaders on the planet that are speaking to a grand vision of possibility of humanity on the planet. Most political leaders are speaking from their survival vibration. How are we going to protect ourselves? How are we going to take care of ourselves, our physical body? How are we going to protect ourselves against another nation? All of this is feeding into the frenzy of the survival instinct that does what? That activates the dramas and the traumas that are unhealed within us. So people are walking wounded, being activated by the world of no global leadership. You have to protect your consciousness. You have to do the work, or unwittingly, you will be caught up in the slough of the world of appearances. You'll think it's your fault. You'll blame yourself. What's wrong with me? So we're saying we're going from vigilance, protect our consciousness, so that we're being pulled, as you hear often in our spiritual community, being pulled by a larger vision of what you are becoming rather than what you're trying to get from the world, what you are becoming. And so as we're stepping into the frequency of protection, which is an interesting word because it means that there's something out there you have to protect yourself. So just take it as developing a state of awareness in which you're feeling and sensing your oneness with God and stabilizing that so you become a vibrational armor to the lower thought forms and frequencies that are happening on the planet. And as you have a level of vigilance, a level of sobriety, a level of no longer embracing that which the world is bringing down on you, you stop on a regular basis. And you ask yourself, today, what am I trying to prove? Are you trying to prove unconsciously that life is hard until you die? Are you trying to prove unconsciously that there's not enough good in the world? Are you trying to prove unconsciously that the world is just full of bad people? Are you trying to prove unconsciously that life isn't for you and there's nothing? Or are you trying to prove vibrationally that life is for you and not against you? Are you trying to prove vibrationally that you're backed by a universal presence and that all of your needs are met? Are you trying to prove? You got to ask yourself, what am I trying to prove today? Feel into that. And then to free yourself, notice throughout the course of your day, course of your life, in conversations, how you may go back to your family dynamic. You may go back to things in your past and say, well, this particular thing happened to me when I was such and such an age. Therefore, I feel inadequate. Therefore, I feel lonely. Therefore, I feel that I'm always going to sabotage myself. Therefore, I feel my needs are not met. In order to escape from that dynamic, you own the emotion, but you throw away the story. In other words, stop sharing where you think it came from. Just own it. I feel inadequate. I feel unworthy. I feel I'll never make it. You just stay with that feeling. It's actually an emotion. You stay with it without the story. You drop the story where it came from. You stay with it. As we've been talking about, you stay with it. As you are observing it. As you are staying with it. And then underneath that vibration, as we've been teaching, is a lie against life. Life is for you and not against you. Life is your real nature in being. Everything you can want and hope for and desire is in life, and you are an expression of life. You stay with that until where you think the genesis of the lie came into manifestation begins to dissolve, and the transmutation of the thought forms begin to happen. This is practice. And then you notice that if you're going through life, we have the tendency to look at people and say, what's wrong? We want to go on a raving rant about what's right in our lives. We want to go on a raving rant about the wins that we're having in our day. We want to go on a raving rant on the minor miracles that are taking place. We want to begin to be the norm of our dynamic visionary conversations. What happened good today for you? What miracle happened? What new thought? I mean, we call ourselves a new thought teachings. We should have one every now and then. What new thought has emerged in your mind today? What new moment of inspiration? As we begin to develop a practice of leading into that dynamic, rather than what's wrong, how's the world pulling you down, all of the negative stuff. And this, of course, I'm not saying is an easy thing. We've been programmed as an open tape recorder to catch everything going on in the world until it's condensed itself into a perception, a point of view, a belief, an opinion, and a mood, and an articulation of everything that is going wrong in our life and on the global scene. Yet we know spiritually that there's a perfect spiritual idea back of everything, yet it has to move through us. It doesn't invade us. It moves through us when the vibrational match happens. The vibrational match happens through spiritual practice. Part of the spiritual practice is sharing the miraculous, sharing the wins, sharing the insights, sharing the moment of inspiration, sharing the testimonies, sharing the healings, until that becomes a way of life, and then something happens. We begin to notice the lower frequency of ourself and the higher frequency of ourself. Sometimes we call it the limited self. Sometimes we call it the unlimited self. Sometimes we call it the temporary self. Sometimes we call it the enlightened self. The lower self, the higher self, called by many names. Today we're just saying the lower frequency, and you'll notice that in lower frequency vibration, you are seeking something from the world. You are seeking love. You are seeking something from the world or from somebody. In the higher frequency, you're radiating it. You are sharing it. You are shining it. And when you radiate and share and shine, you go into another field that does what? It brings into your life that same frequency. You don't have to ask the world for anything. You shine and radiate from your higher frequency, the love, the peace, the joy, the wisdom, the harmony, the generosity, into that field called loving and harmonious individuals and circumstances and situations. You just notice where you are vibrating. You don't beat yourself up. You don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. You just stop, drop the story, feel the emotion, observe it, intend, protect, and watch the universe flow through you in a powerful and a magnificent way, you see. So we want to go on an affirmative rant until it becomes second nature, you see, until it becomes second nature. So listen, mass celebration of the Christ. You're here to wake up to your Christed nature. Jesus, the exemplar of that. The way shower. He showed the way. It's not going to show you something that you can't do. It'd be silly. For whole show, look at me, I can do this, but you can't. No. He came to show the potential that was within every being that walked the planet. This is in you. You see, it's in you. So we are up-leveling our spiritual practice during this time of the year so that it's not just seasonal, it's how we live our life. But using the season where people are in celebration to be lifted and then to expand our vibration of compassion for those who are going through changes during this time of the year because of the unhealed areas that this particular season sometimes activates. And then we become sober and vigilant. Vigilance leads to vision. So that the lived backwards consciousness, otherwise called the devil, lived backwards, life being lived backwards, fear, doubt, worry, lack, limitation, separation, not enoughness, blasted it throughout the world. We become vigilant. So we see when it sneaks in. And we begin to articulate a powerful vision for our life, an intention. Let me give you a good metaphysical manifestation hack. We know about the life visioning process. We know about visualization. This is the hack. It's a quick hack. You just take out a piece of paper and you write down your goal. Write down a few goals. Write them down, look at them, put it away, and don't want them anymore. In other words, get rid of the one thing of them. Look at them every day, but then get rid of the one thing. If you get rid of the one thing, then universal mind will begin to act on it as if it's happening already. And then conditions and circumstances will shift, and you'll look back and you'll see that these certain goals started manifesting, but you don't even know how it happened. It happened because you stopped wanting it. You stopped insisting upon it. You just looked at it and accepted it and went on about your life. Okay, that's a quick hack on the manifestation process. Let's get back to what I was saying. When it pops through, I got to give it to you. So, What was I saying? I was wrapping up. Christ consciousness. Jesus' shining example. Vigilant sobriety leads to being able to articulate a vision for our life. We begin to be aware that what's passing through us is often not our fault. We don't blame ourselves. No one taught you consciousness-raising technologies when you were a little kid. So you were just open as an open tape recorder just to catch anything going around until it condensed itself as a perception, a belief, and then ultimate experiences. To the degree that many people are walking through life, their energy is more on what they are afraid of happening rather than on what they'd like to manifest. You combine that with there's really no global leadership. When you turn on the news, there's no one standing up there saying, let's hold the great possibility that there be peace on the planet today, that there will be truces where there are wars. Let's hold the great possibility today that every single being will have enough food and shelter, enough water today. Let's hold this as a high frequency, and just as individuals put an individual on the moon years ago, let us have the powerful vision that all needs will be met for every single people, that the rainforest will be replanted, that the oceans will be cleaned up. That doesn't really happen. What do you hear? There's a war in Russia and Ukraine. What do you hear? There's a flu. What do you hear? There's a new disease happening. What do you hear? Oh, this is happening. This is happening. What does that do? It activates the survival instinct, not the inspirational instinct, and not the visionary instinct, not the thrival instinct. And what happens when you're just living primarily on survival? Adrenaline. And what happens when you just live on adrenaline? Depression follows high adrenaline states. What are we facing now? Depression and suicide. In all ages, it's a epidemic. The survival instinct is overly activated. Visionary consciousness is what this community is about. What you can become, who you can be. And then you'll find yourself, when you slip into a lower frequency, not your fault. I want the world to give me this. The world owes me this. You slip into the higher conscious. I am here to shine, to glow, to give. My field becomes so strong that what radiates in my field is just more love and peace and harmony and opportunities to share and to give. This happens in every area of our life. It happens in harmonizing prosperity, body-temple relations. Now, here's the deal. You can and you have the power to actually up-level your vibratory field. The world does not determine that. You do. You can actually stop right now and begin to consider all the blessings and miracles that have happened in your life. Your back was against the wall, but something happened. Ooh, how did I get out of that? Ooh, what? I should have been dead. Or whatever the case may be. You can begin to lift your frequency. And then begin to open yourself up to a vision of your life. What do I want to take into the so-called new year? What do I want to leave behind? But you're not putting it on your parents. You're not putting it on other people. You are a singular manifestation of a cosmic unfolding. A singular manifestation of a cosmic unfolding that allows yourself to be immersed in a community of lovers of God, lovers of humanity, that assist you in sustaining and stabilizing the insights that you get through spiritual practice. And then your insight then fuels the community. And it's a constant giving and sharing with each other. From vigilance to vision. Vision, vision, vision. Vigilance, vigilance, vigilance. Sobriety. And in all of that, there's fun and there's play. Why? You're not caught up in the world. You're changing the world. Your holographic nature being in tune with the all in all is shifting the world. So are you vibrating with the world as it appears to be? Or are you vibrating with the world as it really is, held in the heart mind of the infinite? No blame, no shame, no guilt, just observation. No blame, no shame, no guilt, just observation that leads to transformation. Let's take this moment, this morning, or whatever time zone you're living in, and come into the timeless with me at this moment. You're not in a zone of time, you're in the zone of the eternal, the forever, the immortal. You're not allowing anything to strip you of your immortality, to strip you of your eternal nature. You're being vigilant. We turn within in this moment, and we begin to recognize the dynamic presence that is everywhere. We lift ourselves into the field of gratitude, even if it is hard. So grateful, so thankful. I'm so appreciative that I am alive, that I exist at all. So thankful, so grateful, so appreciative that I'm able to see more clearly now where I was caught up in the fog of separation. When I was caught up in the deep sense of otherness, reactionaryism versus response. I stop in this moment, and together as a community, we rise up in gratitude together, and it swells around the entire world. As we were praying with the practitioners before service, I said in substance that old song, God has the whole world in its hands, and we are those vibrational hands surrounding the world now. We're lifting ourselves up in gratitude and thanksgiving and dynamic appreciation, recognizing the presence of God Almighty, God all beauty, God all joy, God all intelligence, God all that there is, God not the guy in the sky, in the sweet by and by, but the presence that is within us, and that's no lie. Within, all through, as. And from the consciousness of unity and oneness, the vibrational word is spoken. It is the solar logos. From the depth of our soul, it's the vibrational frequency of what is. Oh, infinite Spirit, Lord God Almighty, Mother, Father God, the living one, dynamic presence that is never an absence, the nameless one. If you find it, you can't name it. If you name it, you can't find it. Fire doesn't burn it. Water doesn't wet it. Wind blows it not away, according to the Bhagavad Gita. It is what it is. And we are its emanations. So we stand in this awareness and know that the word that is being spoken is not an opinion. It's not merely a belief system. It's the vibration of an answer. Let there be light. Let there be love. Let there be beauty. Let there be joy. Let there be intelligence. Let there be safety. Let there be well-being. Let there be wellness. Let there be harmonizing prosperity. Let all needs be met for each and every one of us. Let there be an armor of the all-good moving through and as us. Let there be generative and regenerative powers activated within us. Ways being made out of no ways. Oh, let the miraculous rants happen. What's right with you? What's inspired you? What miracles have happened? What are you grateful for? Oh, let the rants happen. And the body temple and the water in it begins to carry a supreme affirmatory message. I am alive. I'm awake. I'm aware. I'm more than I ever thought I was. I want to become more myself rather than to get what I think I want. I want to be. And let it shine. This word is being spoken for each and every one of us that we may be free today. That every organ and action function of our body temple may reveal the dynamic health and the well-being that comes from having an intimate one with pure spirit. That our mental body becomes so crystal clear. Our emotional body so purified. Body of our affairs becoming an instrument of harmony and order. Even now. Oh, we're only open and receptive to that which is real and that which is true. Come on. We're open. We're available. Here we are. Use us. Send us. Here we are. Woo. Here we are. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. Help them feel it, Jason. Help them feel it. Arne, Marianne, help them feel it.
I was listen. Oh. I was inside your soul the day that you appeared, my love contained your heart. Oh, but will you remember me? This earth we walk upon, it's a holy, the breath you breathe is mine. I'm loving you, oh, but will you remember me? When the rivers rising and the seas are not calm, and you know the peace you felt, yeah, yesterday. Today, nowhere to be found. And you pray to be free. You pray to be free. And your burdens soon subside. Let me tell you, hold on. Hold on, I'll be answered. I'm gonna tell you one more time, just hold on. Hold on, I'll be answered. Hold on. Hold on, I'll be answered. And pray till you realize. Pray till you realize. Yeah, realize. I was inside. I was inside your soul.
I was inside your soul.
The day. But will you remember? Will you remember? Remember me.
We're in a deep soulful remembrance right now. It's a remembering vibrationally with the presence of God, of which we've never been separated from, but we are remembering vibrationally with intentionality, with vigilance that pulls us into a higher vision of the possibility of our life.